Have you ever convinced someone to do exactly what you wanted, without them even realizing it? Maybe you challenged a friend by saying, "You probably won't be able to wake up early for a whole week." And suddenly, they felt the urge to prove you wrong. Or perhaps you've seen how children immediately want a toy more when their parents say, "No, you can't have that." This is the power of reverse psychology, a subtle yet powerful way to influence people's decisions by suggesting the opposite of what you actually want. In 2025, this skill is more valuable than ever. With so much information online, people are becoming resistant to traditional persuasion tactics. They don't like being told what to do. But if you know how to guide their minds without them realizing it, you can become a master of influence in business, relationships, and everyday life. So, how do you use reverse psychology effectively? How can you make people feel like they're in control while actually leading them toward your desired outcome? Let's dive into the psychology of influence and unlock the secrets of winning the mind game. 1. Understanding reverse psychology. Have you ever noticed that when you tell someone not to do something, they suddenly want to do it even more? It happens all the time. Tell a child don't touch that, and suddenly, that's the only thing they want to do. Tell a friend you probably wouldn't enjoy this book, and now they feel curious to read it. Even in relationships, if someone hears you should stop thinking about your ex, what happens? Their mind immediately goes back to their ex. This is reverse psychology in action, a technique that influences people without them realizing it. Instead of directly telling someone what you want them to do, you subtly suggest the opposite. Because humans hate feeling controlled, they instinctively push back, and often end up doing exactly what you intended. At its core, reverse psychology works by triggering psychological reactance. This is a subconscious response that makes people resist anything that seems to take away their freedom of choice. The moment they feel like they are being forced into something, their instinct is to do the opposite. Why is reverse psychology so powerful? People resist direct persuasion. The more you push, the more they push back. But when they feel like they are making the decision themselves, they commit to it much more strongly. The forbidden becomes more desirable. If something seems off limits or not for everyone, it immediately becomes more attractive. This is why marketing campaigns often use phrases like exclusive for VIP members only or limited access available. It plays on the need to prove oneself. If you imply that someone can't do something, they will often feel compelled to prove you wrong. Examples of reverse psychology in everyday life. Parenting. Instead of saying, "Eat your vegetables," say, "You probably wouldn't like this, it's only for adults." Suddenly, the child wants to eat them. Business and marketing. Instead of saying, "Sign up now," say, "This program isn't for everyone, only for those who are truly ready to succeed." Now, people want to prove they belong. Relationships. Instead of saying, "Text me back," say, "You're probably too busy to reply." This often makes the person feel the need to prove that they do have time for you. Negotiations. Instead of saying, "You should take this deal," say, "I'm not sure if this offer is the right fit for you." This subtly challenges them to want to prove that it is right for them. Reverse psychology is not about manipulation, it's about guiding decisions in a way that makes people feel in control. When done ethically, it helps people make better choices without feeling pressured. In 2025, when people are more resistant than ever to traditional persuasion techniques, mastering reverse psychology will be a key skill in business, relationships, leadership, and personal development. The world is full of noise. If you try to push people, they tune you out. But if you subtly pull them in, they follow willingly. The secret to influence is not forcing people to change their minds, but making them believe it was their own idea all along. 2. Key reverse psychology strategies. Strategy 1. The forbidden fruit effect, making people want what they can't have. Why do people always seem to want what they can't have? Think about it. A child who is told don't touch that suddenly becomes obsessed with touching it. A book that gets banned suddenly becomes a bestseller. A person who is uninterested in a romantic partner becomes attracted to them the moment that partner loses interest. This is the forbidden fruit effect, a psychological phenomenon that makes people desire things more intensely when they are limited, restricted, or forbidden. The term comes from the story of Adam and Eve, where they could eat any fruit except one. And of course, that was the fruit they couldn't resist. Psychologists call this psychological reactance, a natural human tendency to rebel against restrictions. When people feel like their freedom to choose is being limited, they instinctively want to fight back by craving what is off limits. This is why scarcity increases desire. Why does the forbidden fruit effect work? Scarcity creates value. When something is rare, we assume it must be valuable. Limited edition items, exclusive memberships, and only a few left marketing messages all take advantage of this. People hate being told what they can't do. If someone tells you, you shouldn't eat that dessert, doesn't it suddenly seem more tempting? The mystery factor: when something is off limits, we want to know why. Our curiosity kicks in, making us want it even more. How to use the forbidden fruit effect in everyday life. Marketing in business: instead of saying, sign up now, say, this is only available for the first 50 people. People will rush to sign up. Parenting: instead of forcing a child to eat vegetables, say, you probably wouldn't like this, it's only for adults. Suddenly, they want to try it. Relationships: instead of chasing someone, create distance. When you become slightly unavailable, they often start thinking about you more. This effect explains why banned books become bestsellers, limited stock products sell out, and people chase what they can't have. The secret? Don't force things on people, make them feel like they might miss out, and they'll chase after it. Strategy 2, the reverse challenge, daring people not to do something. Have you ever been told that you can't do something, and suddenly, you feel an uncontrollable urge to prove them wrong? It happens all the time. The moment someone suggests that we are not capable of achieving something, our natural instinct is to resist and prove them wrong at all costs. This is the power of the reverse challenge, a psychological trigger that turns doubt into determination. People hate being underestimated. The idea that someone else believes we can't do something automatically creates a deep urge to show them we can. It's not just about proving it to others, it's about proving it to ourselves. That's why we feel a sudden surge of motivation when someone says, you won't be able to wake up early for a month. It doesn't matter if we previously had no interest in doing so, now, it feels like a challenge we must conquer. Marketers, coaches, and leaders use this technique all the time. Instead of saying, you should buy this product, companies say, this product isn't for everyone, it's only for those who are truly committed. Suddenly, people feel the urge to prove that they belong in that exclusive category. Sports coaches challenge their athletes by saying, I don't think you have the endurance to finish this drill. Instantly, the athlete pushes harder. Even in personal relationships, when someone says, you wouldn't dare take a spontaneous trip, we often find ourselves booking tickets just to prove them wrong. Why does this work so well? First, humans have an innate competitive nature. The moment we feel challenged, our emotions take over, pushing us to prove that we are strong, capable, and independent. Second, this technique taps into our deep need for autonomy. If someone subtly implies that we are incapable of doing something, our mind perceives it as a threat to our freedom and self-worth. Our reaction? Fight back and reclaim control. Lastly, the reverse challenge creates a personal commitment. The moment we accept a challenge, we make it personal. Now, it's no longer about the other person, it's about proving something to ourselves. This technique can be applied in countless situations. If you want to push yourself towards self-improvement, don't simply tell yourself to work harder. Instead, set a challenge. I bet I can't work out every day for a month. suddenly, it's no longer an obligation, it's a test of your discipline. If you want to encourage someone, avoid pressuring them directly. Instead of saying, "You should go for that promotion," say, "I don't think you'll actually go for it." You'll be surprised at how quickly they decide to take action. Even in sales and marketing, instead of saying, "This program will help you," say, "Most people give up after the first week, are you strong enough to finish?" Consumers will feel a need to prove they have what it takes. This strategy turns doubt into drive. No one wants to be labeled as weak, incapable, or afraid. When framed correctly, the reverse challenge pushes people towards success without forcing them. They feel like they have something to prove, yet they believe they made the decision themselves. That's why this technique is so powerful. You don't have to push people, you simply plant the idea that they might not be able to do it, and watch as their determination takes over. Strategy 3. The illusion of choice, giving controlled options. Have you ever made a decision, only to realize later that you were subtly guided toward that choice? That's the power of the illusion of choice, a psychological technique where people feel like they are in control, even when their options have been carefully designed to lead them to a specific outcome. Humans crave autonomy. We don't like feeling forced into something, but we also struggle when faced with too many choices. When someone is given only one option, they instinctively resist. However, when presented with 2 or more options, they feel empowered, even if all those options ultimately lead to the same desired outcome. This is why businesses, parents, and negotiators use controlled choices to steer decisions while making the other person feel like they are in charge. Take parenting as an example. Instead of telling a child, "Go to bed now," a more effective approach is, "Do you want to go to bed now, or in 10 minutes? Either way, the child goes to bed, but now they feel like they made the decision themselves. In business, instead of saying, "Buy this product," companies phrase it as, "Would you like the standard version or the premium version?" Either way, a purchase is made. This technique is also widely used in negotiations. Instead of saying, "Sign the contract," a skilled negotiator might say, "Would you like to finalize the deal today or tomorrow?" The person being asked doesn't even think about saying no because they feel like they are making the choice on their terms. The reason this technique is so powerful is that it reduces resistance and makes decision-making easier. People often struggle with making choices, especially when the consequences are uncertain. By narrowing the options, you help them feel more confident in their decision. The key is that all the given choices ultimately benefit you. If done ethically, this is not manipulation, it's a way of guiding someone toward a decision they are likely to make anyway, without making them feel pressured. This method can be applied in many areas of life. In leadership and management, instead of assigning tasks, a leader can say, "Would you rather handle task A or task B?" Now, employees feel they have control over their work, even though they were going to be assigned a task either way. In marketing, instead of presenting a single subscription plan, companies offer multiple tiers, but all of them ensure the customer remains engaged with the service. Even in relationships, this technique works. Instead of saying, "Let's go out this weekend," you could ask, "Would you rather go to a movie or try a new restaurant?" Either way, the plan is set, but your partner feels like they made the decision. The illusion of choice is not about forcing people, it's about guiding them smoothly. When done right, it eliminates resistance, makes decisions easier, and ensures that the person feels empowered, not pressured. The next time you need someone to agree with you, don't give them a single option, give them 2 or 3 carefully selected choices, and watch how easily they make the decision you wanted all along. Strategy 4. Agree and redirect, using agreement to disarm resistance. Most people believe that winning an argument means proving the other person wrong. They think that if they just present enough facts, logic, or reasoning, the other person will eventually admit defeat. But in reality, the more you argue, the more resistance you create. That's why one of the most powerful techniques in reverse psychology is not fighting back, but agreeing and redirecting. This method is incredibly effective because it disarms the other person. When people expect resistance, they prepare for a fight. But when you agree, even partially, they let their guard down. Suddenly, the conversation shifts from a battle of egos to a moment of shared understanding. Once their defenses are lowered, you can then redirect the discussion toward a more productive outcome. For example, imagine you're selling a product, and the customer says, "This is too expensive." The natural reaction might be to argue, saying, "No, it's actually a great deal." But that only makes them dig deeper into their belief. Instead, you could say, "You're absolutely right, it's not the cheapest option. But that's because it's built to last twice as long as cheaper alternatives, so you'll actually save money in the long run." You agree first, then subtly shift their perspective. This technique works in business, relationships, and even arguments. If someone says, "I don't think I can do this job," instead of pushing back, say, "Yeah, it does seem really challenging. That's why so few people have the skills to do it. But I think you might be one of them." You've acknowledged their concern while guiding them toward a more empowering mindset. Why does this work? First, people want to feel heard. If you ignore or dismiss their opinion, they become defensive. But when you validate their concerns, they feel respected. Second, agreeing lowers resistance. When someone expects a fight and doesn't get one, they become more open to considering another perspective. Lastly, redirecting allows you to guide the conversation naturally, without forcing someone to change their mind immediately. This technique is also effective in personal conflicts. Imagine a friend says, "You never listen to me." Instead of getting defensive, try saying, "I see why you feel that way. I know I've been distracted lately, but I really do want to hear what's on your mind." Instead of arguing, you acknowledge their feelings and shift the conversation toward a resolution. In leadership, instead of telling an employee, "You're wrong," say, "I get where you're coming from. There's actually another way to look at this, let me share my thoughts." Now, instead of feeling dismissed, they are more likely to listen and engage. The key to agree and redirect is simple: validate first, then guide the conversation where you want it to go. When done correctly, it removes tension, builds trust, and makes persuasion effortless. Next time you find yourself in an argument, don't fight back, agree first, then redirect. You'll be amazed at how much more effective this approach is. Strategy 5. The silent pause. Let them fill the silence. Most people are uncomfortable with silence. In conversations, debates, and negotiations, silence creates a psychological vacuum, one that people instinctively rush to fill. This is why the silent pause is one of the most underrated yet powerful techniques in reverse psychology. When used correctly, silence can give you control over conversations, influence others, and make people reveal more than they intended. We live in a world where people feel the need to respond instantly. In an argument, most people don't actually listen, they just wait for their turn to speak. In a negotiation, silence makes people anxious, often leading them to offer more than necessary just to fill the empty space. This is why experienced lawyers, salespeople, and leaders intentionally use silence to make the other person uncomfortable enough to reveal their thoughts, lower their demands, or agree more easily. Imagine you're negotiating a salary. Instead of immediately accepting or rejecting an offer, you pause. You don't react. The silence lingers. The employer, uncomfortable with the quiet, starts talking again. "Well, we might be able to offer a little more." They just gave away something extra, not because you demanded it, but because silence pressured them into it. This technique also works in personal conversations. If someone is criticizing you unfairly, instead of defending yourself, just pause. Look at them. Say nothing. Most of the time, they will start backtracking, softening their stance, or even apologizing. They feel the weight of their own words in the silence, which forces them to reconsider. Why does this work so well? First, silence creates discomfort. People expect an immediate response, and when they don't get one, they feel uncertain. Second, it makes you appear more confident. Those who control the silence often control the conversation. Lastly, it forces the other person to reveal more. The pressure to speak often leads people to say things they wouldn't have said otherwise. How to use the silent pause in daily life. In negotiations, after stating your offer, stay silent. The longer you wait, the more likely the other person will feel pressure to adjust in your favor. In arguments, instead of reacting emotionally, pause and let the silence work. Many times, the other person will feel awkward and start to soften their position. In conversations, when someone is speaking, don't rush to respond. A moment of silence makes them feel the need to elaborate, giving you more information. The silent pause is not about intimidation, it's about strategic control. In a world full of noise, the person who masters silence holds the real power. 3. Reverse psychology in 2025, the future of influence. In 2025, persuasion is no longer about direct influence, it's about subtle control. Traditional methods of persuasion, such as logical arguments, aggressive sales tactics, or direct commands, are becoming less effective. Why? Because people are more skeptical than ever. They are constantly bombarded with advertisements, manipulated by algorithms, and exposed to endless streams of information. They don't like being told what to do. This is where reverse psychology becomes the most powerful tool in influence. People naturally resist anything that feels like an attempt to control them. The moment someone senses pressure, their instinct is to push back. But if you subtly guide them, by making something seem scarce, forbidden, or like a challenge, they will convince themselves that they want it. This is why reverse psychology is shaping the future of marketing, leadership, and personal influence. People ignore direct persuasion. Consumers have become immune to traditional advertising. Instead of buy now, companies now use tactics like only the most disciplined people qualify for this program to spark curiosity and desire. AI and algorithms control attention. Social media feeds, recommendation engines, and digital platforms shape what people see. Instead of directly telling users what to do, they guide behavior subtly, just like reverse psychology. Psychological resistance is stronger. People today recognize manipulation faster. The harder you push, the more they resist. The key is not to push at all, but to make them feel like it was their idea. The future of influence belongs to those who master indirect persuasion. Leaders, marketers, and influencers who use scarcity, controlled choices, and the reverse challenge will shape how people think without ever forcing them. In 2025, it's not about telling people what to do. It's about leading them to think it was their own decision all along. 4. Ethical use of reverse psychology. Reverse psychology is a powerful tool, but like any tool, it can be used ethically or manipulatively. The key difference lies in intent. When used correctly, reverse psychology helps people make better decisions, break mental barriers, and take action in ways that benefit them. However, when misused, it can be a form of manipulation that exploits emotions and forces people into choices they wouldn't have made freely. The ethical application of reverse psychology is built on transparency, respect, and mutual benefit. It should never be used to deceive, pressure, or emotionally manipulate someone into acting against their best interests. Instead, it should guide people toward outcomes that align with their values and goals while allowing them to maintain their sense of autonomy. For example, using reverse psychology to motivate someone, such as telling a friend, "I bet you can't stick to your workout routine for a month," can inspire them to take action in a positive way. However, using it to shame someone, like telling a child, "I knew you wouldn't do well in school," can create resentment and self-doubt. In business, ethical use means ensuring that scarcity tactics and controlled choices are genuine. If a company advertises only 10 spots left when there are actually unlimited spots, that crosses into manipulation. Similarly, a leader who gives employees choices should genuinely respect their decisions, rather than using choice as an illusion of control. Ultimately, reverse psychology should empower, not deceive. The best use of this strategy is when it helps people discover their own potential, make stronger decisions, and feel in control of their actions, not when it tricks them into compliance. The golden rule? If the person knew you were using reverse psychology, would they still feel good about the decision they made? If the answer is yes, then you're using it ethically. Conclusion. Reverse psychology isn't about manipulation, it's about understanding human nature and guiding decisions in a way that feels natural. Whether in business, relationships, leadership, or personal growth, mastering these techniques allows you to influence without forcing, persuade without pressuring, and lead without dominating. The key to using it effectively is intention. Are you empowering others, or just trying to get your way? Ethical reverse psychology respects autonomy, reduces resistance, and creates win-win situations. Now, it's your turn. Think about how you can apply the reverse challenge, the illusion of choice, or the silent pause in your daily life. Notice how people react when you guide rather than push. Influence isn't about control, it's about making people feel like they're in control. And once you master that, you hold the real power.